Good morning, students. Some of you asked me about grammar, what we have dealt with you up to now. Of course, you remember we dealt with reported question and reported speech. And then later we dealt with verbs followed by gerunds or infinitives. But some of you asked me about narrative tenses and what is the time expressions. So please, open your workbook on page 67 and you can read the instructions. But let me start with it. Unit 8, time expressions when, by the time, that, before, while. We have several points. I'm going to start. Number 1. We use time expressions in the dependent clause to give extra information about when events for the mean in the main clause took place. Number 2. We use when to describe an event that took place at the same time as the main action. For example, when we sat down to eat, the phone rang. It can also be used with the past perfect to talk about an event that finished before the event in the main clause. When we had finished eating, the phone rang. Number 3. We use by the time to show that one activity was finished before the other one. We use it with the past simple in the dependent clause and the past perfect in the main clause. By the time that I arrived at the station, the train had left. Number 4. We use before to say that one action happened before another. We can use the past simple in the main clause if we know when the action happened. Before I went to bed, I read a chapter of my book. Turn the page, please. Another point, we use the past perfect if the action in the main clause happened at an specified time before the action in the dependent clause. Before I met my pen friend, I had never met an Australian. Another point, we use while to link two events that happened at the same time. While I was reading my book, my brother was watching television. While I was taking a bath, the doorbell rang. Now, we told you about narrative tenses. We dealt with 3 tenses: past simple, past continuous, and past perfect. So, narrative tenses are verb tenses that we use to talk about the past. They are often used when we tell stories and when we describe past events. The 3 tenses that we use for narrative are the past simple, the past continuous, and the past perfect. When we describe past events or tell stories in the past, it is important not to mix past and present tense. The reader or listener will not understand when the events happened and your story will not be clear. We use the past simple to describe the main events of a story and to describe sequences of events. We use the past simple for completed events in the past. After she said goodbye to her family, she got on a train to London. She sat down on her seat and looked out of the window. We use the past unfinished and events at a point of time in the past and for repeated actions that were happening over a period of time. The young man was studying engineering at university. I was working on my project for a month. We also use the past continuous to describe the situation or background in which the events of a story happened. That day might to talk about happened before the main events of the story. He had dreamt of helping people all his life. Finally, his dream was coming true. By 7 o'clock in the evening, he had completed his homework. To form the negative in the past perfect, use the auxiliary verb had plus not plus main verb. To mean past participle. For example, by the time I was 12, I still had not been fishing. To form WH question, in the past perfect, you need to describe whether it is a subject or an object question. Subject question, so called because they are a question about the subject of the sentence. Don't change the order of the subject and verb. All you need to do is replace the subject of the sentence with a question word. For example, who had learned to speak 2 languages by the time he was 5? Umar to speak 2 languages by the time he was 5. To form object question, asking about the object or second part of the sentence with the verb. Add the question word and swap the order of the subject and the auxiliary verb. How long had you studied French before you became a translator? To form yes or no question, in the past perfect, swap the order of the subject and the auxiliary verb. Had you finished all your work by this morning? Yes, I had. No, I hadn't. Thank you.